Steven Spielberg is one of the biggest names in entertainment today. For the past 40 years, he's produced and directed one blockbuster after another. Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan. The list just goes on and on. Spielberg is back in Cannes 3 years after he was president of the festival's jury to show off his new movie, the BFG, The Big Friendly Giant. Now, it doesn't come out until this summer around the world, but if the critics in Cannes are right, it just might be the next E.T.
Never look behind the curtain.
Steven Spielberg, hello.
Hi, how are you?
The world premiere of BFG was just here in Cannes. Were you nervous at all going up those red steps, or do you still get nervous?
I was nervous boarding the airplane to get here. I was nervous getting off the plane. I was nervous coming to the Carlton. I was very nervous when I got out of the car with all the glitterazzi, and then of course once we got to the top of the red carpet, I felt right at home here in Cannes.
The BFG is based on a children's book, of course, by Roald Dahl. How did you first learn about the book?
Through my kids. I basically, got the book. I'd known about, Matilda, James and the Giant Peach, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, especially the Chocolate Factory. So I knew Roald Dahl, and the BFG was written in '82, the same year that E.T. was released. And I remember getting the book and reading it to my first child, who was born in '85, and I think I read it to my first child around '89. And I think I read it to him in Spain when I was making Empire of the Sun. And I remember playing the BFG and feeling really tall, and feeling also lonely, because it's also a story of two very lonely people who find each other from two different worlds, and it was quite a kind of epiphany, hearing myself reading Dahl's words to my first child, and I've since then read it to a lot of my kids.
This one sounds like you.
There are bad dreams here too.
Yeah.
I know that you have said in the past that E.T. was inspired in part by you trying to deal with your parents' divorce.
Yeah.
And what really touched me in BFG is that scene where he's getting bullied by the bigger, stronger giants. Were you ever bullied as a kid?
Yeah, I was bullied in high school, in elementary school. I was bullied, and I could relate to that. And obviously, it's a scene I sort of did from my own memory. But I was never bullied that way. I was never taken to the top of a hill, stuck on a garbage truck, and sent hurtling toward two cars coming at me like roller skates. I was never bullied that way.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. But the movies allow us to take our own life and magnify it and exaggerate it and make it more than it ever was.
The BFG marks the first film you've ever directed for Disney.
Yes.
What's your favorite Disney movie that you like showing to your kids or grandkids?
I think my favorite Disney movie has always been and will always be Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Why?
I just love that picture. I just love what it says, once again, about embracing our differences. And as Snow White has to do with each of the disparate personalities of the Seven Dwarfs. And it's a story about jealousy and envy. And it's a story also about your heart will triumph evil. And I just love those basic precepts of fairy tales. And, BFG, it's my first fairy tale.
Which one of all your films that you've made would you like to be remembered for, if you could pick one?
Oh, I can't answer that question. It's too difficult. It's not even up to me to suggest to anybody that they should remember anything about the movies because I said so. It's really up to people, not to me.
So much of the BFG is about dreams, about what the BFG himself calls these golden fizz wizards.
Right. What's
your golden fizz wizard? Do you still want to direct a Bond movie, for example?
No, I don't want to direct. I never wanted to direct a Bond movie, not since the '70s when I asked twice and they wouldn't let me direct one. So I've gotten over that. I've gone past that. No, my golden fizz wizard is finding an idea that will turn into a movie that today, talking to you, is an unknown. It's out there somewhere. And that's always been my golden fizz wizard, is when that little idea happens and you suddenly wake up and you say, that's what I want to do next.
You've got 7 children, you mentioned before. You have grandkids now. Do they realize how cool their grandpa is?
No, but they realize how cool my reading skills are because I continue to read to all of them.
You've got a lot of projects coming up, almost 1 movie a year for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Just a word on the next Indiana Jones. How are you preparing for that, and why do you still like the franchise?
I'm not preparing for Indiana Jones because I'm not making it till 2018, so it's not in the foreground of my thinking right now. I'm preparing for a movie, Ready Player One, that I'm doing next, and then another movie, The Kidnapping of Edgardo Martara, with both of which have Mark Rylance in it.
Well, exactly. I was going to ask you about Mark Rylance. You directed him to an Oscar just last year for Bridge of Spies. What is it about him that makes him so unique and such a great BFG?
Well, he's just a complete savantic prodigy on stage, and he's just now made the transition to film in an effortless way. You know, on stage you have to be bigger to reach, as they say, the little old lady in the back row, and in film, you know, you have to be quiet sometimes. The camera sees everything. When you think you're not doing anything with your face or your eyes, the camera sees deeply into what you're really doing that you think you're not doing. And Mark made that transition from theater to film without any help from me. He just somehow knew that he wanted, as Rudolph Abel, to be mysteriously quiet, not to give away anything about himself. And yet he told us so much about himself in his minimalism. And with BFG, it's the opposite. He wears his heart on the sleeve. He's ashamed of his language. He's awkward. I mean, it was a big performance. And to be able, 2 movies in a row, to see Mark, you know, changing color from black and white to color, like Dorothy stepping into the land of Oz. That's how it felt, going from black and white to color, to see Mark Rylance going from Rudolph Abel to the BFG. It was just a gift for me to witness that.
I'll be right here.
You were talking about E.T. before, E.T. that also premiered here in Cannes 34 years ago, and I would imagine this is a bit bittersweet for you because both films were written by Melissa Matheson, who we lost just last year, I think.
Yeah. It's just been a terrible loss for all of us, and Melissa has been, you know, ever since I met her on the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark in Tunisia, and our kids have grown up in the same town, and Melissa and I have been in touch with each other all these years, and then we did E.T. together, then BFG together, but she was on the red carpet. She was there. I felt she was there.
Steven Spielberg, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.